as we're talking about CEOs and business owners and leadership and management, the conversation always turns around to, well, Chris, what do you think are the most important characteristics of leadership, or what are the fundamental attributes of leadership? And again, I take a non-traditional approach. We've spent 30 years building what we're now calling the Majer factor, and it isn't based on tradition. Right? It's a different way of looking at the world. It's a different set of practices. It's a different way of generating success that, frankly, others just can't barely imagine. So we'll talk about that later. But for now, the question that we wanted to chew on was, well, what is leadership? Okay. Now, let's be realistic. You can go to any bookstore, get online, and Lord only knows how many books there are about leadership. And they're all full of tips and techniques and anecdotes and former management consultants and former football coaches, and everybody in the world's got an opinion about leadership. And what does all of that tell us? Only one thing. There's no coherent, unified, universally accepted definition of leadership. It's kind of one of those, I'll know it when I see it. That's not really useful for us in terms of trying to be able to teach it or really understand it, right? So let me give you a different interpretation. Leadership at its root is an assessment that I make of some actions that somebody else takes, all right? I go, that was leadership, or no, that wasn't leadership. It's an assessment. It's not a thing. It's not a skill. It's an assessment. So then the question becomes, how do I generate the assessment that what I'm doing is in fact leadership? Well, you can look in two areas. Well, first of all, let's check basic results, all right? If I'm going to be a leader, I have aspirations to be a leader, what's the number one thing I need? Followers. Yes, that's right. You're not a leader if no one's following you. Okay, great. How do I get followers? Well, there's a couple different things you want to pay attention to here. Leadership, in the end, is a conversation. Right? And it's a conversation that evokes action in others. So the fundamental skill of leaders, three things. So let's say the fundamental skills, make that plural. One, centering. I know nobody talks about that in business school. Centering is the capacity to train your mind and body to stay calm, stay focused in the face of chaos and confusion. Second is listening. Now, by listening, I don't mean hearing. I mean listening in the deep background of what's going on around you, what's going on in the conversations, what are the moods that are present, what are the possibilities that are present. And the third thing is speaking. Now, speaking, it sounds, well, everybody knows how to speak, and I don't mean Toastmasters kind of clever oratory. What I mean is crafting the kinds of conversations that mobilize people into action. In the end, leadership is about mobilizing action, declaring possibilities, appointing and anointing authorities and teams to go and take advantage of them. And you cannot do all of that stuff if you don't start with those three fundamental practices: centering, listening, speaking.